and welcome to Road to Revenue. This is the podcast where we talk to creators to understand, well, the twists, the turns, the bumps in the road on their own creator journey. So joining me today is the one, the only, well, the double K, Mr. Kevin Kolbe. Welcome, Kevin. How you doing?
Yeah, I was gonna try and go with Special K, but since Kellogg's got that as a cereal years ago, I can't do that. So, but Lee, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
Do you know what? We're super pleased, and we do really want to understand some of the challenges, but we also want to understand some of the, the really big wins. But before we even get to any of that, how did it all start?
Well, I was born in a small cabin. Oh, no, wait a minute. That's the different story. So, when I was little, I won't go back that far, but I was fascinated with radio. And I actually had a little turntable in my room and I'd play DJ and stuff like that. So when I started college, I had a chance to work at a radio station. And I thought, this is the coolest thing ever. So I spent several years as a DJ and then had an opportunity to get into television. And it was like, ooh, it's like audio with pictures. I like this. And stayed in TV for, goodness, I was over 30 something years, just moving in different stations and stuff. And my last run in TV was as a creative director at a Fox affiliate. And we did a lot of cool stuff, made the station a lot of good money and had fun. And the position got eliminated. And I just decided I felt more called just to do my own thing. So I'm a solo creator. I had been on YouTube, we'd used it as a TV station just to repurpose our news stories because that's what you did. And the more I looked at it, I thought, wow, this is really where I want to be. It took me a couple of years to get serious about it. And now it's my core platform. It's what I love. It's what I do. And I use it to teach.
No, absolutely. And interesting then that you've come from, well, proper broadcast into YouTube. And I think there's would it be fair to say that there's a belief that people get into YouTube because they couldn't go that direction? Would you say that's a fair assumption? Or
a lot? I still think there's people in traditional media that look at online media, YouTube, as just, it's just that thing. And it's like, I just saw recently, YouTube has overtaken like Netflix and all the streamers for TV watching. So, I think it's easier to get into than people think. It is hard, but I think sometimes,
or was that me making things up?
I don't know. I think my background in traditional media, as we call it, has been great. And then sometimes it has worked against me because, in the world, so like at the Fox station, for example, we were like the ad agency for the TV station. So our world for a lot of what we did existed in 30-second promotions for the station or our shows or commercials. And sometimes we might get a 60-second, so we were doing shorts before shorts were called shorts. They just weren't vertical. And so, everything had to be, we would have meetings upon meetings and every frame would be looked at and stuff like that. And then I get into the world of YouTube and it's like, be as long as you need it to be. And, you don't even have to brush your hair and all this other stuff. So it's like, wow, I've had to, and I haven't done a good job of this, try and let go of my perfectionism, just to get things done. So it's helped me with that a lot.
Right. And so like without the constraints then of traditional media, how challenging have you found that?
It's actually been way more freeing. I think the problems I've had with it, I've put on myself. And anybody can go to YouTube and type in, how to grow a channel, and you're going to get 100 different videos, and a lot of them will tell you conflicting information. And so then the problem is, I think you fall into this formula way. Well, I've got to do it this way to grow and reach people. And the reality of it is, when I've kind of, because there's an independent rebellious side to me, when I've kind of bucked against that, it seems to work better. Not always. And then you start realizing, well, wait a minute, there is no one size fits all on YouTube. And there's too many people that teach that on YouTube. This is the way you've got to edit for certain things. It's like, not really at all. And just because somebody can turn the camera on and talk for 2 or 3 minutes doesn't mean that that works for every audience, for every creator. So it's actually been over time, just the more I kept leaning into it and quit trying all the other platforms that, we're told we need to be on, it's just been more freeing. And I don't know. I mean, I don't have a problem just turning on the camera and talking. I just don't. It may come from my radio background of just turning on the mic and talking. You know, I worked a lot of Christmas Eves where nobody was calling in, so you got used to just turning on the mic and talking. And so I think for me, it's been a lot more liberating, a lot more freeing, as well. Now I can slide back into Lee, I can slide back into overproducing something in a heartbeat, and those are the ones that I look back on. I'm like, why did I slap all those graphics on there and do a gazillion edits? It didn't really help the video. So I don't know. That's kind of how it fits for me.
Yeah. So do you have safeguards to like ways to prevent yourself from falling into that overproduction trap?
Well, I don't script anything, which I'm sure if anybody watches my videos, they could say, yeah, we know. Yeah, we know. I just don't enjoy scripts. Now, it doesn't mean I don't write. I tend to, my style is more conversational. It's how I've always written copy. It's how I've always just written. And I like that. So, I may do some bullet points just to kind of keep me on track. Or if I'm working with a sponsor and it's like, yeah, I need to make sure I kind of hit these points, I want to be very clear of that. I don't use a prompt or anything like that. So I don't know. How do I decide that? Well, here's something. I have shot videos before and then I edit all my own stuff. Absolutely love editing. It's probably my favorite part of the whole process. It has been for years. But when I get in there, I have to watch it back. I try and watch it back as a viewer. And then I go, well, what does that really mean? Did that mean I went off on a tangent here? Maybe I'll watch it back the next day and go, yeah, it sounded good here. But on video, it's like, dude, I don't even know what you're talking about. And so then I'll make a copy and cut that out and see, does the story still work? Does the video still work? And if it does, then I let it go. And that was harder to learn, editing your own stuff, but then getting comfortable with that it's really not for you. I mean, I like everything I upload to a degree, but at the same time, it's kind of not for me when I put it out there, and not everybody's going to like everything. So I don't want to give the impression you're trying to create something so everybody likes it. But I think with just experience and time, I've kind of, for my stuff, gotten a knack of, yeah, that part just didn't work. Or I move things around where I maybe said something later in the video and then watching it back 2 or 3 times go, oh, wait a minute. That part could go up here, and make the rest of it stronger. You don't know that I shot that 10 minutes into the video, but it made it a better video, hopefully, for the person watching. So that's kind of how I've approached it. Those are kind of my constraints. I've said this before. When I go into edit, especially if I'm doing a story video, I call it, I kind of let the video talk to me. I kind of, I dump everything in, and then I'm looking for the story in the story, and I don't want to get so confined, like, no, it's got to be A, B, C, as opposed to, oh, wait a minute. They said something here that might be the start of the video that we talk about later. And that's the freeing part of, I think, doing my own stuff.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I do have to wonder, is your confidence in editing one of the key things that frees you up to not worry about taking a linear approach to your, to your conversation, to your question, to your storytelling?
Yeah, it may be. That's a good point. Nobody's ever asked that question. So that's a great question. I learned to edit, with video. Literally, it wasn't digital. It was extremely linear, tape to tape.
Yeah.
And then when I got into digital, it was like, oh, this is the best thing ever. And I feel like I'm really good at editing. There's people out there way better than me, but I'm very comfortable. So I think you bring up a good point. So therefore I know, maybe when I'm editing something, it's like, ooh, I could add something here that just emphasizes something, whether it's a sound whether it's a cut, whether it's a shot of something I'm talking about, or maybe I don't need it. And so it does give me a confidence in that. And again, I love it. I don't I just, to me, editing is not like, oh, I gotta go edit this. I love I love editing. Absolutely love it.
That's just one skill, right? Like there's a whole host of, and coming from radio, coming I was gonna say, coming from radio, gift of the gab, right? To be able to carry the conversation, which is so important. Um, but what else have you found that you've had to develop that you didn't necessarily have already in place as you swapped over from traditional into online?
I'd say using a camera. So let me explain that. And I can give you an example. Back when I worked at the Fox station, by the way, I'm a huge fan of the show 24. Absolutely, one of my favorite on my list shows. And Fox, after the show ended, they brought it back for like a mini series, like 12 episodes, called 24 Live Another Day. Kiefer was back, and they allowed certain stations were invited to go to New York for this special VIP thing. You got to meet the cast and go to the party. And I was one of the people they selected to go. And I had to have one of my producers and the graphic artist, who was also a photographer, train me on the DSLR camera I was getting ready to take in a bag with me, having never used. So I got a real quick crash course on white balance and focus and autofocus and all these other things like that. And it's not like I'd never used a camera, but this goes back several years. And and the cameras in TV were even different at that point. So I knew how to pick up a camera and use it, but I hadn't had to use it more creatively. And I think that's what's happened over time. A lot of times people will think I'm more techie than I really am. I always like to say I know creatively how to use a camera, but I may not be able to technically walk you through every setting and do it. So that's it. Lighting, I'm okay with my lighting. I'm not going to pretend to be a lighting expert. My office is, I set this up the way I wanted it, with some background lights and stuff like that. I've got one light on me. I don't do a 3-point light. I understand 3-point lighting, but I'm also lazy. And I think sometimes simple is better. So there's been a lot of that. Then you get into the whole YouTube world, and goodness, I mean, whether I'm doing YouTube or not, as a solo creator, I'm the marketer, the creator, the sales guy, the guy on the back end, reconciling it, doing the invoicing. If I don't get paid, and everything like that. And then keeping up with my website and doing everything. And then you get to YouTube, and you can upload a video and just be done. But yeah, you probably ought to come up with a title and a description and optimize it. Oh yeah, and then there's the thumbnail. So in a way, it just never ends. So I love learning and doing different things. So it's actually allowed me just to get so into a world that a few years ago I just kind of was dipping my toe in, and now it's like I'm fully immersed in it.
And at what point did this is road to revenue, right? Like what we want to understand is where revenue came into the picture, and for a lot of the creators that we talk to, is it's not been part of the plan from the beginning. How was it for you? At what point did because just obviously prior to hitting record here, we were talking a little bit about one of your sponsorships and conversations you're having there. But at what point did revenue come into the conversation? When did it pop into your head? Was it from the beginning or when?
No, it should have been. So when my position was eliminated from the station I was at, they took care of me for a while, and that allowed me to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. And there was a lot of it that I'll get back into television and blah, blah, blah. And that never worked out. And I'm a believer, and I just believe that, God had something else planned. I was just too stubborn to listen. And so I had the opportunity to do some projects that kind of that first year, my position was cut in March of that year. And so I had a nonprofit reach out to me that I was connected with, and they said, hey, we're looking to do some videos. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so all of a sudden now the process of, oh, okay, I need to start kind of pitching services and stuff like that. And then I got a really big deal out of the gate with Sony Pictures Television. I actually was hired to do a campaign for King of Queens in syndication. So not only was that huge, it also though gave me a false impression that, oh, all the jobs are big, they all pay that big, they're all that cool, and not always, not always. So I knew after a bit that, okay, I need to figure this out, and I think for a bit there was still this, I'll do this. I enjoy kind of being on my own. I think I've enjoyed it more over time. But I think there was also that, yeah, but if I need to get back into TV, or here's a position, you know, financially what you miss is what I miss is like, I didn't have benefits anymore. I didn't have health coverage and stuff like that. Now it's on me to figure that out. Thankfully, my wife and I live fairly frugal, and we've saved, and that's been that safety net. But I would say over time, I mean, somebody interviewed me not long ago for another show, and I actually had to go back probably from my day one of being on my own and just chart everybody I've worked with, every project I've done. And it actually surprised me how much I've been able to do. And a lot of those are one and done. Some coaching clients, you work with them once or twice, and then you get them to a point and they move on. But it's like, wow, I've worked with a lot of different people on a lot of different things. So I would say early enough, I didn't get, I don't want to say serious. I didn't get as focused on it as I should have. Now, the flip side of that is, and I'm not going to pretend to have a balance, is you get almost too focused on the money. And then everything becomes about, well, how do I make $1 on this? How do I make $1 on this? How do I make this? How do I make this? Yes, you need to make money. Everybody has to figure out, their own level of needs. But a lot of it is giving and helping. And then how does that come back? And there's been partnerships I've had over time that reached out to me. I didn't have any idea who they were, but then there's been other partnerships that have happened because I was creating content that maybe this company or this creator saw, reached out and said, hey, can we talk? So, there's been that as well. I mean, it still blows my mind. I'm not going to lie. When somebody reaches out and said, hey, let's talk about a collaboration. Let's talk about working together. I'm like, oh, okay, let's do it.
And it sounds like your first approach was almost looking at it from I'm going to do this for now, not necessarily forever.
Yeah.
When you left.
Yeah. I think that's fair. And I had several people say to me, because of my TV background, I mean, I'd been in it for a long time. When my position was eliminated finally, which was nothing more than what still happens in a lot of businesses. It's just businesses start shrinking and they think, hey, we can do more with less. And I had a good run there, and they took care of me. And even the owner of the company came to tell me. I mean, that's the relationship we had, and still to this day, there's no animosity. In fact, in a lot of ways, it's been a blessing. But at the same time, people go, oh, "You're going to get back into TV. You're going to get back into TV." And I think I started believing that. It's like, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. I actually applied at 2 or 3 different stations that would, if any of those had come through, we'd had to move, and they never came through. And I just look at it and it's like, oh, okay, that was a chapter in my life that had closed. But I think in the back of my mind, you're right. It's like, yeah, I'll get back into something. And this is what I was supposed to do, I feel. Now, looking back, I didn't know that then. But now I know this is what I was supposed to do.
And that balance that you talk about with not necessarily focusing solely on the money and how am I going to make $1 from this? How can I make $1 tomorrow? And how do you manage to keep that balance?
Ooh, that is a good question. Well, I like to do different things. I'm just not content leaving things alone. I wrote my first book last year, And I had been wanting to write a book for a long time, which if you knew me very well, the irony in that is I don't read that many books. My wife can read 3 or 4 books at the same time. It's like I can't get through one in like a month. I do like books, but I just kind of had always wanted to write a book. And so I put a book out. And in fact, as of recording this, my second book, which has also been co-authored with a friend, has released this week. So if you think about that,
Congratulations.
I mean, I'm 63 and I'm still discovering things. And all of a sudden it's like, well, there's a different revenue stream. I didn't know anything about KDP and Amazon. I thought KDP was probably a rapper. I didn't know it was a
Yeah.
part of Amazon and books and stuff. And so that leads into that. And then you start finding out, okay, affiliate marketing and this. I created a website. It's now defunct, but it was more of kind of an affiliate site where I had a lot of links, but then it was called Video Resource Hub to have things on there. And a lot of that was to see, could I do it? Could I monetize it? And could it help people? And so that's been a lot of it too, is discovering what works, what doesn't work. And over time, it's like, I could spend a lot of time on this and it not benefit anything. Doesn't really help that many people, takes up a lot of my time, probably won't make money. So there's always that balance. And I think that just comes with time. Not always perfect, because we all fail at something or some things. So I think it's just taking time to kind of figure that out. And some things, I've done some videos that still earn affiliate money that I did a year or two ago. You're not going to get rich on that, but it's nice to have that trickle in.
And so what do your revenue streams look like then?
Oh, well, I should know this from the pie chart I had to put together. They're a little bit of everything, and I'll just rattle off a bunch, and none of I'm not going in order. But because I'm in the YouTube partner program, I get AdSense dollars. I get a cut of AdSense dollars. So YouTube can turn, if somebody's unfamiliar with this, you start a YouTube channel, you start uploading videos, they can put ads on your video. It's their platform. You don't get a cut of that. You don't get anything. When you get into the partner program, when you're invited, then you get a cut of that. And so certain niches can make more, like financial and health, fitness tend to, because the advertisers, those are more sought after niches. So I do make money that way. I make money on sponsorships and brand deals. I have worked with other companies and online companies in terms of creating content for them. And then maybe they sponsor content on my site, coaching, consulting, which I still do and love. And that's been everything from working with nonprofits to individual creators, or even a lot of entrepreneurs that just, they know this video thing and they've heard about it, and how do they get into it? I've done a course. I've done some digital products. Like I mentioned, I now have 2 books out. We'll see how the second one does. What are other things I've done? And I've done production work. I don't do as much of that hands-on as I did, but I've done everything from campaigns to, like I mentioned, Sony Pictures Television, to nonprofits, to local businesses, to entrepreneurs. A friend of mine is a seamstress, not a seamstress, a silversmith, and I've done all of her online courses over the last 3 years. So it's a variety of things. In fact, I even said that you could add selling stock footage. I sold one clip that I had uploaded to this site, like, I don't know, years ago. And like last year, I get this email saying, "Hey, congratulations, somebody bought it." And I'm like, I forgot it was even there. So it didn't amount to much, but it was still kind of cool to have. So it's a little bit of everything like that.
And you find that helps to ease the kind of the bumps and the dips and the flatten out the revenue.
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, I haven't had a month where nothing came in. I've had months where little came in, and then I've had really good months and good quarters. I've also I've had a couple of speaking gigs that I got paid for, And then I also was contracted for almost a year as a coach for a company where I was actually coaching their clients on video as well. So, and again, that wouldn't happen because of a personal relationship. So it does help. Some people might say you don't want too many streams. I don't know about that. I think if it's taking up all of your time to manage the streams and you're not getting any content out there to show what you can do and everything, there is that balance. I haven't hit that unbalance yet because a lot of it is, and I don't want to make this sound just like, so, oh yeah, you just do that. But a lot of it is set it and forget it. When you're in an affiliate program, some affiliate programs will kick you out after a while if you don't convert, and some you may never convert, and and they don't care because they know you're putting their link out there, and it really works more benefit, I think, a lot for them than the creator. You've got to click on my link, my affiliate link, possibly get a subscription for me to get a small cut of that. Now think about that. So the person who really wins is the brand. But if it's a brand I like and I use, or I'm even paying to use, and I'm like, hey, Lee, I can recommend this because I use it all the time, then I think it's more impactful. And then I don't mind sharing that. I ultimately know they're building a big company, but I like the brand or I like the product or something like that.
Do you have rules around or decision-making process around who you will do brand deals with and who you will promote?
Yeah. And oh man, that is such a great question. And that is something that I've had to develop over time, and I'm probably still tweaking. Like just recently, I've decided that I won't do always, I always remember Sean Connery when he said, I'll never play James Bond again. And then he played James Bond again, and they called the movie Never Say Never Again because it was an inside joke because he said that. So I always try and say I'll never, but I don't plan on doing fully branded sponsored videos. And I've done some of those. And the reason is because I'm not a spokesman for the company. And I've been very clear in those videos that, they're not approving this and these are my thoughts. But at the end of the day, I still feel like it's a commercial. I knew that going in, and again, you can't please everybody. But I don't ever want a community to feel like, well, Kevin's only liking this because they're paying him for it. So I've decided that's an arena I don't enjoy playing in. And you turn some money away that way. There are other things that, there's some brands I'm just not interested in because of some videos that have done well. I've had some products, brands, companies reach out, and it's just like, I'm not interested. It's either doesn't align with what I'm doing on my channel. I don't believe in the product. A lot of times too, it's like they don't want to pay you. I mean, literally. They want you to do all the work and do the video, and then they'll give you like a free membership for $30, and it's like that doesn't equate it. So I've also turned down some because I really didn't feel like, this sounds so haughty, that they respected the creator, the process. But yeah, there's some things like that. I asked for, and this even went back to my days of actually producing for people. I asked for the payment up front. I got burned once, almost twice. And now is there negotiation there? Absolutely. But I just won't do a deal where we'll pay you when it's all done plus 60 or 90. And it's like, I'm not interested. I'm not interested at all. And there's that fine line of maybe it's a brand that you haven't worked with, so they don't know you from that type of relationship. But if you have work out there, they should have an idea of what you can do, and so, yeah, it's really kind of formed that on how I invoice, when I invoice, how clear I am on the terms. And some of that goes back to TV because we did a lot of contests. And I found out quickly that when you did a contest, you had to have the rules completely buttoned up and almost play a what if scenario on everything. So that actually, I hadn't thought about that till now. That actually helped me to a degree on going into it when really reading through the agreement and say, oh, wait a minute. What does this mean? Oh, you want the rights to it for life, and that's not what we talked about, those type of things. So I've turned down deals, and it's just you have to be okay with it. But I always feel like saying no to that one probably opens a yes to somebody else that maybe I don't know.
Moving a little bit to a bit more broad, thinking about the advice that you've come across, and what's the worst advice you've received?
Oh, that one's easy. I had a friend and somewhat of a mentor when I first got on my own say to me early in the process, and we're still friends, you need to stop creating and go find a job. And I thought, you're right. You're right. And I tried that for a couple of days. And then I realized, and this sounds maybe so weird, it's in my DNA. It's what I do. I mean, I say that, I was created by the creator to create. Now, I do believe everybody has gifts and things like that. We just use them differently. But I thought, yeah, I got to create. Did I know exactly where it was going to lead at that point? No. So looking back on that, I'm like, if I had followed that advice, and he was thinking of me. The irony is, he hired me about a year later to help him on a consulting project. So we actually got to work together, and he paid me. But that was just, to me, it was horrible advice. And just think of, if I had done that, I would have never met. We would have probably never met on LinkedIn, because I wouldn't have been posting on LinkedIn. I wouldn't have been sharing stuff. Probably wouldn't have written a book. Who knows? But yeah, that was that would probably still rank in my worst advice ever. I'm sure there's been others, but that's the one I remember.
It's great that you're still friends, right? Like that's fantastic, and I do. I think that from a philosophical standpoint, taking a step back, I guess, was that bad advice necessary?
So we had known each other for several years, become friends. Our company had hired him a few times. So we'd been friends. And I think it was purely out of love and respect. He wanted to help me. And he felt like, you're just doing this. And I will say, I'm not about to say who it is, but he is very successful around the world. So it's not like he was trying to figure it out. So I think he was coming from look, Kevin, I've done this for a long time on my own. I have my own business. You've got a family, go support them. And so I think it was all done in love and respect. I just know I tried it very quickly and thought, yeah, I even if I don't know where this goes, I've got to create, I've got to put something out there. I just have to. Yeah.
Would you say there's anything that you think that people are getting advice that maybe isn't appropriate for them?
Yeah. So Gary V is one of the guys that comes to mind. Now I don't know Gary. I've never met Gary. Probably won't ever meet Gary. I did read his first. Well, the first book I read of his was Crush It, which I thought was really good. And I think I read Crushing It, the follow up. Gary's only said a couple of things ever that I've agreed with that ironically didn't have anything to do with creating content, where I think the message that he shares that people latch onto that is just dangerous, if I can say that, is, be everywhere, create as much as you can, create like 20 or 30 pieces of content a day and just create. He's even coined, document, don't create, which I find ironic, because even if you're documenting, you're creating something at some point. But what people don't know, what Gary doesn't share, is that from my understanding, my research, he has a team of like 20 that just work on his personal brand. Good for him. And he's got a family. Good for him. But when you have a team working on your personal brand, it's easy to be everywhere all the time with anything. If a new platform pops up today, he can be on it. He's got somebody. And I do think he's doing some of his stuff. But I think the danger is that people see that and go, well, yeah, I've got to do what Gary V does. And it's like, you're not Gary V. You probably don't have the team. And so what happens is most people, if they don't have teams or they're a team of one or two, they quickly burn out because every platform's different. And they're like, but Gary Vee said do it. It's working for him, but he's got a team. So to me, it turns into be very maybe toxic advice that, I learned quickly. It's like, yeah, I don't preach that. I think it's actually, you do the opposite, do what you can, and you figure out what consistency and quality and success looks like for you,
And it almost sounds like
and do it.
niching down behaviors and niching down platforms, not just in terms of content topics, but actually niching down where your focus is.
Yeah, I think so. And I'll be honest. I mean, I leaned into talking about video because that's been my background. Doesn't mean that I sometimes, I write blogs and I do other things, but I think video is what I kind of understand more. We were talking about YouTube. I love the video aspect of it. Even if we're sitting down watching TV with the family, we're watching visuals and videos. But I just think trying to do too much is not good. So going back to the niche thing. So, I've been around the video thing, but recently, I don't know when this is going to come out, but recently I really was struggling with who I wanted to talk to. And I really decided that I wanted to be helping people over 40 to 50 more. Because again, I'm 63. And so is that niching? It's more of community. It's more focus. And what I've seen is the comments and things now have exploded on those videos because there's a community you find. So yeah, I'm still talking about video and YouTube. So there's a niche, but it's also this kind of struggle together. Is that a niche or whatever? I'm not targeting like, men over 50 who have a 401k and drive. I don't do that because I personally, coming from broadcasting, I think that's kind of a waste of time. And I can say that because my mother-in-law, when she was alive in her 60s, was an avid gamer. Lee,
Brilliant.
She would have kicked our collective butts in any video game. She didn't fit any demo. There was nobody on Wall Street coming after her because she was outside the demo. She would have never made anybody's avatar. So I think it's the danger sometimes with that. So yeah, I think niching can help. But as I tell people too that ask on their YouTube channel, you can do your YouTube channel about everything. If you want to do gardening and then hiking and grilling and name 12 things that don't go together, that's okay. It may be harder to grow, but you may be okay with that. So there's kind of that combination, niching isn't bad, but I think it can be all about just the niche, just the niche, just the niche.
Yeah, no, I think that absolutely makes tons of sense. I think the one thing I would take from your content and the way you've described it is making it almost like you give permission to be part of that community. And I think that's where I see the talking to the over 40, over 50, that feels like that's what's happening there is you're giving permission for people to be able to speak up and go, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm not going to lie. I had to really struggle with putting that video out. Age has not been a big thing to me. It's just, it's irrelevant. When I turned 60 and did a video about turning 60, most people said I was lying, which I guess is nice. It's a good thing. But then it's like, I don't know, do I want to do this? Do I want to be this vulnerable and stuff like that? And I am not going to lie. It's the absolute best thing I've ever done, except for the video I did on our son who has special needs. It's probably one of my favorite videos because, Lee, it opened the world to a community that I don't think I admitted I was a part of, and that we can kind of co-own together. I mean, that's not the way I want to say, but we're in the same space. We have the same struggles. We have the same wins and things like that, maybe varying. Where I've done a lot of videos I'm very proud of. They've helped people, but there wasn't a community aspect to it, which is also the downside to just doing a how-to channel. People come, they find an answer, they may be grateful for it, but then they move on. And dude, I'm telling you, the comments are just people are sharing their stories, and it's like, wow. Talk about like creating a fire, like fueling you creatively. It's like, dang, I can't wait to. I
Yeah.
mean, I got a list now. I'll never get to from the comments. So yeah,
They're
it's
absolutely,
really cool.
absolutely amazing. And very much like a massive well done, because it is hard to be, even for a creator who's
Thank you.
been putting videos out on a regular basis, delivering really great results, actually has a very mature channel, to still be vulnerable is not easy. So, on a personal level, absolutely, really impressed me. And so, what about that flip side of the absolute best advice that you've received?
Man, there's a lot of it. There's been several people that have made impacts on me throughout the years, that either have been that are friends and also have mentored, maybe coaching. I've had advice on. Well, it was probably somebody that told me about the payment thing. I don't think I
Mm.
made that up, on just how to really work with clients and things like that. And I've also had people, say, don't be afraid to ask for more. Not just, well, everybody ought to double your rate, but, do that. I think of Sean Cannell. I mean, he's probably been more influential than he knows of, and Sean and I know each other. But first course I took, and it was really just about whatever his thing is. You just got to press record, but you got to be okay with it. And you got to put it out there and stuff like that. And so I always kind of think of that in the back of my mind. Um, but I think it's just like being able to get out there. I can't think of that one piece of advice. Um, I know that what I kind of lean into over time is that, the only guarantee in what we do is if you don't put anything out there, it's guaranteed to get no views and no reaction. And that's what I tend to live by, you know? And I'm not going to lie, releasing my book last year and then even telling anybody about it was like, yeah, yeah, you know. And I don't like to over promote, and
Right.
maybe I under promote, which is weird coming from my background. So I don't know. I tend to learn a lot of different things. I collect quotes, So I mean, there's been people that have said things not to me that have resonated. Like I remember Pat Flynn saying something once, and I'm going to butcher it. It's like, you don't have to change the world. You just have to change one person's world. And that's always stuck with me. It's like, don't go into like, we're going to do it's just like, no, this. And another one, it's like, you don't have to know everything. You just have to know a little bit more than the guy behind you. And because it's so easy to get in this game, and the imposter syndrome kicks in. What do I really know? And I don't know everything. And I'm one of those guys. If you ask me, hey, how does something happen? And I don't know, I'm immediately like, well, let me find the answer for you. And I'm on Google, and I'm doing all that because I don't like to not have an answer, not the answer, an answer. And then you get out there and realize you can't know everything. I heard Peter McKinnon say once, that we shouldn't put constraints on ourselves saying, I can't create this and I can't create this. And that's always stuck with me. He said it much better than that about, we put these constraints and these restraints on ourselves that nobody else does. I can only do this kind of content. Says who? I can't share this on LinkedIn. Says who? I mean, obviously there's extremes, but I'm not talking about extremes. So those are things that always stick with me. It's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So, and you've mentioned it. You've mentioned a number of creators, and maybe it's one of those, and maybe it's someone else. Is there someone in particular that you do really admire, and you think actually they've achieved, or they are producing in a manner that you really respect?
Um, yeah, I would say a bunch, and I've got to slow down and think of some of them. Yeah, I would say Casey. Just the fact of how he does and approaches things is very liberating and motivational. He did a video once called "Do What You Can't," and I have that saved off, and I probably haven't watched it in a while, like I should. But I used to watch that very frequently. And it was just a good reminder of, like it says, do what you can. What the people tell you can't do, which was kind of an attitude I had in television with my team when people would actually, when I walked into TV and it was like, well, we can't, we don't do it that way. Well, why not? Well, we can't because. And so I always saw that as a challenge when somebody goes, well, you can't do that with a graphic. Oh, okay. Well, let me show you. It's and sometimes they're right. You can't. So I think, but there's other ones that I've come across. There's a guy named Foresty Forest, and he lives the van life, solo, travels all up Canada and stuff like that. And it's just remarkable. Long videos. He does it by himself. Admire him. I don't know. But there's other creators that don't immediately come to mind. There's one young lady named Jordan Dunseth or something like that. She's really good. I like what Sean's done with his company, Think Media. And there's other ones here and there, that kind of come and go. And you're like, oh, yeah, I really like that vibe. I like that style. I just like watching their stuff.
And so very much a consumer as well as a producer on YouTube then.
Yeah. And I think you can, somebody just left this comment the other day about over consuming. I said, yeah, it's a trap. I've kind of taught before that to me, the three, I don't know if they're pillars or what, but it's like consume, create, and connect, maybe not in that order. But I think if you are going to be on YouTube, you need to watch YouTube, not to copy. There's too much of that, but just to kind of figure it out a little and see what you like and stuff like that, and discover. There's a tab on YouTube called New to You, and if you click on it, it will serve you up stuff that probably you've never seen from creators you've never watched, and I love that. I love to discover new channels and new stuff. Now if I'm looking for how to fix a toilet, I want to get right to the point, right? But that's how I learn. And so I'm on YouTube a lot to learn and be entertained. The danger is you fall into over consuming and you don't create, and then it kind of becomes your crutch. Well, if I just learn a little bit more, if I just know a little bit more, if I just can figure this out. Well, you can only figure so much out. And at some point you just got to, if you want to create, you need to create, and it'll be okay. And then keep learning as you grow.
And that's really difficult finding that sweet spot. But
yep.
There's probably also, and this is, the life of creator. It's full of decisions, full of learning. But what's one of the most challenging decisions that you've had to make so far?
Man, that's a good one. I mean, I've said no to some deals that I thought if I had just gone into it for the money, it would have been decent money, but it just overall didn't feel right, and I try not to be emotional and knee jerk about it. I try and step back, think about it. A trick I use sometimes is if I'm going to reply, a lot of times email, I hit reply and take the person's name off so I won't accidentally send it. And I kind of write, and then I save it and walk away just to see, okay, is that really how I want to say it? Is that what I want to say? Am I ready to say no? Am I ready to say yes? It's a little thing that I do. But yeah, I mean, it's, so the question was like, what is hard, right? What is hard to learn? I think it's still a learning process. There's a lot I feel like I know, and there's a lot I still feel like, even at my age, being a creator, doing it as long as I have, kind of in two different type of careers, traditional, now digital, that I'm still learning. And that's the exciting part of not knowing where it's going. Again, not to keep plugging a book, but I went into writing a book knowing nothing. If you'd looked at my watch history for probably a month leading up to that, a lot of it was about how to publish a book, how to publish a book, how to publish a book, how to publish a book. And I got to a point where I'm like, I got to do this. And I actually went into it thinking I'm going to write this and publish it in a week. Because I didn't know. I did it in a month, but I didn't know what I didn't know, and it was exciting. It was exciting. So I don't know. Learning and adapting has been fun. I may have gotten off track from your question. I apologize, but
No, and I think that's absolutely, it's fascinating, right? Because it is the, I think the perception is that we get to a point where, well, we've figured it all out, but that's not the case. It's a
oh yeah,
constantly evolving,
yeah,
constant journey of
yeah,
learning and discovery and learning and
yeah.
relearning and
Well, and platforms change.
oh,
I
hugely.
mean, when I got on YouTube, there were stories. They went away. Shorts weren't a thing. Podcasts were a thing, but not on YouTube. And so now look, in just the last year or two, shorts, podcast, shopping has become a thing. Live streaming is still a thing, but you don't hear it as much as the other things. Then they all of a sudden introduce TV, and wow. And so that's changed everything. But I find that exciting. I don't find that so stifling. I mean, I've got an Instagram account. I don't do much on Instagram. I kind of joke that they can't really figure out what they want to do. We're photos, no, we're videos, no, we're videos and photos, no, we're vertical, no, we're now we're, what I tell you what, when you figure it out, let me know. And it's like, I just don't enjoy the platform because it's like, oh, okay, I want to share photos, but now you want me to do vertical videos. So it's not about learning, it's just about also adapting. I personally don't I don't like vertical video. I don't. I actually took the shorts off my channel last year and then thought, it was stupid. So I just put them back up and took them off by unlisting them.
Yeah.
And I thought, just put them back up. I don't plan on creating more, but just put them up and move on. Most people hadn't seen them anyway, so don't worry about it.
So, I mean, you mentioned Instagram there, but the other platforms, where are you with all the other social platforms? What's your take?
So maybe we can file this under lessons learned. So when I was the creative director in television, I told my team, we can do a lot of platforms, okay, or we can be on a very few and do really well. Meaning you could chase every platform. Now, I'm not going to lie. Anytime a new platform came out, as a creative director, I would grab an account on there just in case. You never knew. And that way it'd kind of protect the station, if you will. Believe it or not, people would squat on our call letters and our brand, and then we'd have to get legal and say, okay, you can't do that. We own it. Then when I got out on my own and I'm doing things, the advice is you got to be everywhere. You got to be everywhere. And I think there's something to where people are. If Lee loves Instagram and loves LinkedIn, why would I waste my time trying to convince you, Lee, to watch my stuff on Facebook? You're there. Now, maybe I can't talk to you there like serves you or helps you. But I did it. Oh, dude. I mean, I started Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter when it was Twitter, and LinkedIn and YouTube. I've got a Rumble channel that I think I uploaded one video to just to try it, and then there's other ones that probably have gone under. I think I did Threads for a month and thought, what the heck, and then I realized over time that I could quickly burn out and spin my wheels for very little payoff. So I still pop on X. I'm probably on X more than I need to be. Where I have found where I find X more useful for me has been in the DMs between brands or other creators. That's been the most useful thing to me. LinkedIn, I know we met there. I'm not a big fan of LinkedIn. I've tried it several times. I still pop in there to share things, like I'm going to share about our new book when I say I'm the guy I'm co-writing it with, because why not? because I know people it can help there. Facebook is what I've been on the longest, and I don't mess with my page at all anymore. From the personal side, I probably have more connections there of people I know, if that makes sense. I have far more subscribers on YouTube, but I think there are people that I know more about, and we've connected somehow other than just hey, here's a friend request. Okay, great. See you. And then their birthday pops up and you're like, who the heck is that? So I enjoy Facebook. What I have found over time, though, and that's pretty much it. What I have found over time is that I'm not enjoying the time on social like I used to. And it's not because of political, and it's not because it's a dumpster fire and stuff like that. I have to enjoy it to want to participate. And I really like YouTube. And I still enjoy enough of Facebook to pop in and out because we also have family on there and stuff like that. But personally, I know you don't want to hear this because we connected on LinkedIn, and this is not a knock on there, but if I never posted again on LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter, I'd be okay. I would. But everybody has to decide what works for them as well.
Yeah.
So that's, I really try and that's why when I share my socials with somebody, I just share YouTube and my website. That's it. You know, it's, you know, if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, great. Don't be offended if I don't follow you back.
No, and you know, I'm personally quite pleased that basically what you're saying is I'm the best thing to happen on LinkedIn for you. So thank you.
And you know, and in fairness, I've made some great connections this way. Some really good connections. Some almost potential business collaboration things that just didn't work out for whatever. So to me, there's a difference. You tell me what you think. There's a difference in people saying, I quit social media as opposed to I deleted social media. So I don't go to Instagram hardly at all.
Yeah.
I probably dip in and out LinkedIn a few times a week and maybe Twitter, you know, every day. But I could stop posting on LinkedIn, but it's not to the point where I'm deleting my account. For me, there's a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's more where you're spending intentional time.
Yes.
Rather than, you know, feeling obligated to show up.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I probably listen to more podcasts, probably more in the morning. When I'm on the treadmill, it's just easier, you know, to listen and pop in and out. It takes me forever to get through a podcast though when they're really long, because I typically don't go back to the podcast audio only during the day. I'd prefer the video, quite honestly, even if it's just a conversation between two people like this, because I can put it on and maybe do something else or listen or watch as well. But it's, you know, but there again, there's something that's changed as well. But I don't know, anybody listening to this, if they want any advice, I would say just resist the feeling you've got to be everywhere and do everything, because a lot of the folks that are doing that have a team, maybe don't have the you know, the obligations, responsibilities that you do, you know. You may have a full-time job and several kids and other obligations, and do what's really important in reaching folks. You know, I did find out over time, excuse me, you don't have to be everywhere to grow your YouTube channel, which is, I think, one of the biggest myths out there. Totally see it all the time. I need to start an Instagram channel so I can build my YouTube channel. No, you don't. No, you don't at all. Good luck with that.
And so, like, we've talked about changes, right? Like, and you're saying like platforms change and technology changes. And I mean, right now we are in this absolute, we're in the throes of, well, there's just so much noise around AI, right? AI is dominating most of the conversations. Is it something that you've brought into your workflow? And if so, how?
Yeah, to a degree. I just read today, I don't know if this will date the conversation, but the head of Procreate, which is a pretty cool drawing app, has said we will not introduce AI into our workflow, period.
Wow, that's a strong statement.
It is completely opposite than what Adobe has done. I like AI. The irony is AI has been around, I think, for longer than we've been calling it AI. I mean, there's been like I edit in Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro has some things that technically probably use AI somehow to do it. They don't call it AI. So, you know, it's like so many things when all of a sudden becomes the big thing. Oh, the big buzzword, AI, AI, AI. And it's like, well, but those things have kind of been around. There are things about AI I like. I use it more to ideate. You know, so, but I'm also very aware I'm not talking to somebody, that it's machine and it's computers and it's bits. And you have to be very careful with what you get back and not use it as gospel. Now, sometimes I've used it to help me think of thumbnail ideas. You know, hey, I'm doing a video on this, you know, some ideas, and it may spit back something. Oh, I didn't really think about that, you know? And so that's where for ideation, it helps me. And there's some other things out there that I've used it for. I do get a kick out of, and I don't want to insult anybody out there, but I do get a kick out of when somebody goes, I created this with AI, and it's like, no, you didn't create anything. You put in what, and we even call it a prompt. Ooh, we've got a fancy term for it. You know, I'm a prompt engineer. You put in a sentence and you told it to spit something back that possibly is an amalgamation is that of a lot of other things that already existed, maybe. And so you didn't really create it, you told it to do something. And I think that's the danger of it. Where the issue I have with AI, the concern, maybe that's it, is that I think too many people are using it to stop thinking. And the irony about AI is it still takes a human to tell it what to do. You can't sit down at ChatGPT today and just sit back and not enter anything and it tells you a prompt. You have to say something. Hey, can you summarize this book? Can you give me an idea for this? And I've seen too many people, I feel like, have turned it into their personal counselors. And it's like, oh, dude, don't. Or, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a commercial during the Olympics from Gemini. And I love Google. Well, I say I love them. I use Google. And it was like the dad who wants to use Gemini so his daughter can write a letter to her, you know, the athlete that, and it's like, what the heck? No. All you're doing, I know it's a commercial, but the thing with kids is their imaginations, all of us really. But if I just turn that over to something doing it for me, you know, I did get a kick the other day on Twitter when I saw that ChatGPT was down, and I almost tweeted, it's like, well, I guess everybody can take the day off. I mean, I think there's an over reliance on it. Like it can do everything and I don't have to do anything. And I think that, I don't know that real and authentic ever went out of style, but I wonder if that's why we're seeing it a little bit more of it now, because people are just kind of tired of the fake generated. I mean, I would rather see a photo that you took of a mountainside that maybe isn't perfect than an AI generated mountaintop that doesn't even exist. That's me. Is AI useful? Absolutely. Can you use it? Absolutely. Can you get too reliant on it? Absolutely. Yeah. That's my take on it.
And you know, and I think there's a lot of sense in that. I know I personally use it. I'm using it 6, 7, 8 times a day.
It's easy,
but it's for things like recall of an Excel formula, or like, I don't necessarily need to know that stuff, or where I'm assessing something. So, but no, I think what you say is it does make a lot of sense to, where it makes sense to bring it into your workflow, like ideation. But yeah, definitely not. And I think it's the difference between what you're describing is the difference between delegating and abdicating.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. And again, it's got a use, but there are things I'm just not going to use it for. And I've rarely ever had it write something for me and I read it back and go, oh yeah, that sounds just like me. I mean, and I've tried to, train it, and it's just like it just still doesn't know how I might say that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm just going to word it. And if it's not the greatest, that's fine. If it's got a grammar error in there, probably will. I'm okay with that. It's real.
So you have been an excellent guest, and yeah, you give me lots of really interesting nuggets to be able to share with our audience. I'd like to ask just a very couple of questions, and then we've got a bit of a quick fire round.
All right.
So, do you have a revenue regret?
I might say, it goes back to something you asked earlier, that I didn't, I'll say, get more serious about it. That's not the right way I want to say it, but I can't, that early on, I didn't maybe think about it harder, and I think possibly because, and my family and I have been very blessed, but I think it's possibly because I had some projects come very quick. And I wasn't prepared for that. And it's like, oh, so this is the way it works. I'm an entrepreneur. And so I think that's probably my regret, is that step back and go, And then also subscribing to things I didn't need. I have fewer resource subscriptions now than I've ever had, ever. Even gear. I mean, it's still... I have fewer cameras and gear than I've had, and I still, when I list them out, it's like, oh, holy crap, that's still a lot. But just over time, realizing I didn't need to buy all this gear that I bought, the drone that I've flown twice, and I didn't need to subscribe to all this. And maybe if I'd have stepped back a little bit more and thought about, okay, how does the money flow and how does that work? I think that would have been better. So maybe regrets, lessons learned.
Oh, brilliant. So let's fire into the quick fire round then.
Hit me.
Okay. So Instagram or TikTok?
Oh, Instagram.
I think I know the answer to this next one. YouTube or TikTok?
YouTube.
Instagram or YouTube?
YouTube.
High value or high volume?
I'm going to say high value, but I'm not sure I believe either one is the right way.
Okay. What about niche market or broad appeal?
Is there a both? I think it depends, but I do think probably niche is better starting out.
And what about build your email list or create more content?
Okay. So I'm going to say create more content.
Single platform focus versus multi-platform approach?
Single.
Knew that was coming.
These are great questions, dude.
Creator or influencer?
Oh, creator all day long. I hate the word influencer.
Trends or strategy?
Strategy.
And then if there was one recommendation that you would make to people who are on their own creator journey, on their own road to revenue, if there's one suggestion you would make, one thing they could do today, what would that be?
I would say give yourself grace, create with what you have, and share your gifts with the world, because there is at least one person, probably more, that needs it.
That is absolutely wonderful, wonderful advice. Kevin, you have been an amazing, absolutely amazing guest. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing all your absolutely golden nuggets with our audience. You've said the best place to find you is YouTube, right?
Yep. YouTube at Kevin Kolbe, or my website, which is kevinkolbe.com.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, we'll definitely make sure we pop those links below, a few links that you've discussed as well throughout the interview. This has been amazing. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing your road to revenue. Take care.